At 3:17 in the morning, the first warning appeared. Across several Israeli cities, phones lit up with the same message: incoming missiles. Seek shelter immediately. Within seconds, sirens began echoing through the streets. People rushed out of their homes, running toward underground shelters, while the sky above them filled with streaks of fire. But this was not just another missile attack. At the same time, something else was happening hundreds of kilometers away. In the narrow waters of the Strait of Hormuz, the route that carries nearly 1/5 of the world's oil, commercial ships were suddenly under attack. Explosions were reported in the Gulf. Global oil markets began to panic. Air defenses activated. Interceptor missiles launched into the sky. And within minutes, the Middle East was once again on the edge of a much larger war. For decades, Iran and Israel fought each other in secret, through cyber attacks, covert operations, and proxy groups across the region. But now that shadow war is starting to come out into the open, missiles are flying, cities are being struck, and major world powers are quietly moving their forces into position. The question now is no longer whether this conflict will escalate. The real question is how far it will go and who else might be pulled into it. To understand how the region reached this moment, we have to go back many years, to a rivalry that slowly grew into one of the most dangerous geopolitical confrontations in the modern world. For decades, the conflict between Iran and Israel existed mostly in the shadows. There were no official battlefields. Instead, the confrontation unfolded through intelligence operations, sabotage missions, and cyber warfare. Explosions at nuclear facilities, mysterious assassinations of scientists, covert operations carried out far from the public eye. Both sides denied involvement in many of these incidents. But the message was always clear. The rivalry was real, and it was escalating. At the center of this tension was one issue that worried Israeli leaders more than anything else: Iran's growing military and nuclear capabilities. Inside heavily guarded facilities across Iran, engineers were working on missile systems capable of traveling hundreds and sometimes thousands of kilometers. These missiles were designed not just to reach distant targets, but also to evade modern defense systems. Some were built with maneuverable warheads that could change direction during the final stage of flight, making interception far more difficult. For Israel, a country with a relatively small territory, even a handful of successful missile strikes could cause serious damage. That reality forced Israel to invest heavily in one of the most advanced air defense networks ever created. Over the years, Israel developed a layered defense shield designed to intercept different types of threats. The first layer was the Iron Dome, a system designed to intercept short-range rockets. It quickly became famous for its ability to destroy incoming projectiles in mid-air before they could reach populated areas. Above that was David's sling, designed to intercept medium-range missiles. And beyond that was the Arrow system, specifically engineered to intercept long-range ballistic missiles high above the atmosphere. Together, these systems formed a defensive shield that military analysts often described as one of the most sophisticated missile defense networks in the world. But modern warfare has a way of challenging even the most advanced technology. Instead of relying on a few powerful missiles, Iran began focusing on a different strategy: overwhelming defenses with large numbers of weapons launched at the same time. Ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and increasingly drones. Iran's drone program grew rapidly over the past decade. Some drones were designed for surveillance, while others were built as loitering munitions, weapons that could fly toward a target and explode on impact. These drones were relatively inexpensive compared to traditional missiles, but when launched in large numbers, they could overwhelm defensive systems that were designed to intercept only a limited number of threats at once. Military strategists call this tactic saturation, and it has become a defining feature of modern warfare. In several recent attacks across the region, waves of drones and missiles were launched almost simultaneously, forcing defensive systems to engage multiple targets at once. Even the most advanced defense network can struggle under that kind of pressure, and when just a few projectiles slip through, the results can be devastating. In several Israeli communities, emergency crews have responded to damaged apartment buildings, shattered windows, and burning vehicles after missile fragments or debris from intercepted rockets fell back to the ground. Even when the defense systems succeed in intercepting most of the incoming threats, the psychological impact on civilians remains enormous. Sirens can sound at any hour of the night. Families rush toward shelters. Children wake up to emergency alerts on their phones. For many residents, daily life has become defined by uncertainty. But the battlefield is not limited to the skies above cities. Another critical front lies far away in the waters of the Persian Gulf. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most strategically important shipping routes in the world. Tankers carrying oil from the Gulf region pass through this narrow waterway before reaching global markets. Every day, millions of barrels of oil move through this corridor. Any disruption to shipping in this area can immediately affect energy prices around the world. That is why attacks on commercial ships in this region are taken extremely seriously by governments and financial markets alike. When explosions are reported near the Strait of Hormuz, the consequences are felt far beyond the Middle East. Oil prices rise, insurance costs for shipping companies increase, and global markets react almost instantly. This is why tensions in the Gulf can quickly become a worldwide concern. Meanwhile, the conflict between Iran and Israel has drawn the attention of major global powers. The United States has long been one of Israel's strongest allies and maintains a significant military presence across the Middle East. American naval forces patrol the Persian Gulf, and military bases across the region provide logistical support for Allied operations. For Washington, the stakes are complex. Preventing nuclear proliferation remains a major strategic objective. At the same time, protecting global energy supply routes is critical for economic stability. Other powers are watching closely as well. Russia, one of the world's largest energy exporters, stands to benefit when oil prices rise due to instability in the Middle East. China, the world's largest importer of oil, has a strong interest in keeping shipping routes open and stable. These overlapping interests mean that the conflict between Iran and Israel is not just a regional dispute. It is part of a much larger geopolitical puzzle. Every missile launch, every airstrike, every attack on shipping routes has the potential to trigger wider consequences. And that is what makes the situation so dangerous. Modern conflicts rarely stay contained. History has shown that wars often begin with limited confrontations, small strikes, retaliatory attacks, signals meant to deter the other side. But sometimes those signals escalate beyond what anyone originally intended. Today, the Middle East once again stands at one of those uncertain moments. Missiles continue to cross the skies. Defense systems remain on constant alert. Diplomatic channels operate quietly behind the scenes as leaders attempt to prevent further escalation. But the underlying tensions that created this conflict have not disappeared, and as long as those tensions remain unresolved, the risk of a larger confrontation will continue to hang over the region. Because the shadow war that once existed quietly in the background is no longer hidden. It has moved into the open, and the world is now watching to see what happens next.